Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswatyai Namaha. Om Shri Guru Bhyo. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Akhanda Mandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwara Gurureva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Hari Om Saram. Today we begin with the 47th chapter of the Sai Satcharitra. We shall begin to read Baba's reminiscences. Story of Veerabhadrappa and Chenbasappa, snake and frog. The last chapter described Baba's reminiscences about two goats. This chapter describes more such reminiscences and relates the story of Veerabhadrappa and Chenbasappa. Preliminary. Blessed is the face of Sai. If we cast a glance at him for a moment, he destroys the sorrow of many past births and confers great bliss on us. And if he looks at us with grace, our bondage of karma is immediately snapped away and we are led to happiness. The river Ganges washes away the dirt and sins of all people who go to her for a bath, but she intently longs for the saints to come to her and bless her with the touch of their feet and remove all the filth sins accumulated in her. She knows for certain that this can only be removed by the holy feet of the saints. Sai is the crest jewel of the saints. And now hear from him the following purifying story. This is a true bhakta who's written about, this just shows his love and reverence for Sai. For Sai, who is Sai? Even a glance at his face, and we know how Baba is. He has promised, even if he is not in the form, a picture of him is him. That's what he has said. And we have seen many stories, even when he was in his physical form. How he said, I would reach before, and his photograph was found. So he says, I'm not different. So here, one glance at him, and he destroys many past words. When we have faith, in our Lord and our Guru, one look at him, he corrects our thinking. We immediately are connected to something that is so purifying, that expresses the ultimate truth. And in front of them, then, when we love and we are thus devoted to them, it is very, it is impossible for us to commit any sin. Forget about committing sin. His glance can wipe away many sins of the past birth, which we are not even aware. Hmm? Such is the purifying ways of the Lord in our lives. So here, when he looks at us with grace, our bondage is completely broken, and our karmas, because of which, see, what is karma? A pattern of thinking that we have formed because of past experiences. Karma usually we think is only action. Action is not only by the physical body. Physical body will do what the mind tells it, isn't it? So actually, karma and karma bandhana is so subtle, and it is in the mind, not so much in the physical action. The mind directs the tongue to speak, and that's what we speak. Even if we don't want to say something, we are saying that. Even if we don't mean it, we are saying, how come this is bandhana? So at every level, our patterns of thinking, our ways of thinking is cleared when we this way connect with Sai, which means all the previous experiences and our thinking, our conclusions about so many things, our judgment, all which is based on our own prejudices, conditionings, and biases, depending upon how we are brought up and what we are taught to be right and wrong. So we look at everything through that channel. And when we see through some lens, we only see what we want to see. We don't see things as they are. So here is where connecting with Sai this way. And this is where we say that it is like he clears completely. His glance is so purifying that it breaks us from this kind of cycle of karma, from the karmic snapped away. And then we begin to see things as they are. That itself gives us so much happiness. It is exactly like he says, even Mother Ganga longs, for the touch of such beautiful beings, realized masters. When they even put their feet into Mother Ganga, she says she feels purified. It is said she feels purified. Why? She helps purifying so many people, wiping away their sins. What happens to all the sins that is accumulated in her when great souls like this step on her? Then she is also purified. And when we listen to Sai, who's the crest jewel of all saints, even listening, it is like Jnana Ganga. We are listening to his stories. It keeps purifying the way we look and way we think. Therefore, brings about happiness. Now we shall read about the snake and the frog. Sai Baba said, one morning after taking my breakfast, I strolled along till I came to a small river bank. As I was tired, I rested there, washed my hands and feet, and had a bath and felt refreshed. There was a footpath and a cart track sheltered by the shady trees. The breeze was also blowing gently. As I was preparing to smoke chillin, I heard the croaking of a frog. I was striking the flint and lighting the fire when a traveler turned, sat by my side, bowed down to me, and politely invited me to his house for meals and rest. He lit up the pipe and handed it over to me. The croaking was heard again, and he wanted to know what it was. I told him that a frog was in trouble and was tasting the bitter fruit of its own karma. We have to reap now the fruit of what we sow in our past life. and there is no use crying about it. Then he smoked and handed over the pipe to me and said that he would go there in person and see for himself. I told him that a frog was caught by a big snake and was crying. Both were very wicked in their past life and were now reaping the fruit of their past actions in the present bodies. He went and found that a huge black serpent was holding a big frog in its mouth. He returned to me and said that in about 10 or 12 minutes, the frog would be eaten up by the snake. I said, no, this can't be. I am its father and I am here now. How shall I allow the snake to eat it up? Am I here for nothing? Just see how I release it. After smoking again, we walked up to the place. He was afraid and asked me not to proceed further as the snake might attack us. Not minding him, I went ahead and addressed the creatures thus. O Veerabhadrapa, has not your enemy Vasapa yet repented? Though he has been born as a frog, and you too, though born as a serpent, still hold bitter enmity against him? Be ashamed of yourself, give up your hatred now, and rest in peace. On hearing these words, the snake left the frog quickly and dived into the river and disappeared. The frog also jumped away and hid itself in the bushes. The traveler was much surprised. He said that he could not understand how the snake dropped the frog and disappeared on hearing the words. Who was Veerbhadrapa and who was Vasapa? And what was the cause of their enmity? I returned with him to the foot of the tree, and after sharing again a few puffs of smoke with him, I explained the whole mystery to him as follows. So, this serpent and frog, even today, if you go by the village and in the villages and all that, you might see such scenes. In the city, you may not. Huh? So here was Baba, and with that traveler, he seemed to know the frog and the serpent. And see how casually he takes their names also. And he's talking about something which, if a third person had to hear, would not understand anything. He is addressing the snake and telling it, are you still fighting with Basappa? Who is this Veerabhadra? Who is Basappa? And why is he addressing these snakes by their names? Huh? So this is just not, you cannot believe something like this that is happening. And then we shall hear what was the story. There was an ancient holy place sanctified by a temple of Mahadev about 4 or 5 miles from my place. The temple was old and dilapidated. The residents of the place collected funds for its repairs. After a large amount was collected, arrangement for worship was made and plans with estimates for repairs were prepared. A rich local man was appointed the treasurer and the whole work was entrusted to him. He was to keep regular accounts and be honest in all his dealings. He was a first-class miser and spent very little for the repairs, which consequently made very little progress. He spent all the funds, swallowed some amount himself, and spent nothing from his pocket. He had a sweet tongue and was very clever in offering plausible explanations regarding the poor and tardy progress of the work. The people again went to him and said that unless he lent his helping hand and tried his best, the work would not be complete. They requested him to work out the scheme and again collected subscriptions and sent the amount to him. He received it, but sat as quiet as before, without making any progress. After some days, God, Mahadev himself, appeared in his wife's dream and said to her, you get up, build the dome of the temple. I will give you 100-fold of what you spend. She told this vision to her husband. He was afraid that it would involve him in expenses and therefore laughed it off, saying that it was a mere dream, a thing not to be relied and acted upon, or else why did God not appear to him in the dream and tell him about it? Was he far off from her? This looks like a bad dream, having its object in the creation of ill feeling between husband and wife. She had to remain quiet. So, God does not like being big subscriptions and donations collected against the wishes of the donors, but He likes ever trifling amounts given with love, devotion, and gratitude. Some days after, God again appeared in her dream and said, "Do not bother yourself about your husband and the collections with him. Don't press him to spend any money for the temple. What I want is bhav and devotion. So give, if you like, anything of your own." She consulted her husband about this vision and decided to give God her ornaments given by her father. Hmm? The miser felt disconcerted and decided to cheat even God in this item. He undervalued the ornaments at rupees 1,000 and bought them himself, and in lieu of the amount gave a barren field to God as endowment or security. The wife agreed to this. The field or land was not his own. It belonged to one poor woman named Dubaki, who mortgaged it to him for rupees 200. She was not able to redeem it for long. So the cunning miser cheated all, his wife, Dubaki, and even God. The land was sterile, uncultivated, and worth nothing, and yielded nothing, even in the best season. Thus ended this transaction, and land was given in the possession of the poor priest, who was pleased with the endowment. Sometime later, strange things happened. There was a terrific storm and heavy downpour. Lightning struck the house of the miser when he and his wife both died. Dubaki also breathed her last. In the next life, it all seems like one big movie, fictional movie where they show, flashback. And this we are talking because it is Baba. He knows all the connection from previous lifetimes. It is not just flashback to childhood and, it seems like 3 lifetimes now. In the next life, the rich miser was born at Mathura in a Brahmin family and was named Veerbhadrappa. His devout wife was born as the daughter of the priest of the temple and was named Gauri. Okay, so the miser is Veerbhadrappa and his wife is Gauri now. The woman Dubaki, the mortgager, was born as a male in the family of Gurao, the attendant of the temple, and was named Chenbasappa. So Dubaki was Chenbasappa. The priest was a friend of mine. He often came to me, chatted, and smoked with me. His daughter Gauri was also devoted to me. She was growing fast, and her father was seeking a good husband for her. I told him not to worry about this, as the bridegroom himself would come seeking. Then there came a poor boy named Veerabhadrappa, wandering and begging his bread to the priest's house. With my consent, Gauri was given in marriage to him. He was also devoted to me initially, as I recommended his marriage with Gauri, but later became miser. Even in this new life, he was hankering after money and asked me to help him to get it, as he was leading a married man's life. So see how many times, that's why, Baba always says, I know you from the past lifetimes, and I have been with some for 72 generations. So we do not recognize him as such. And because every time the body that we take is also very different, and though he knows us, we do not recognize him. Strange things happen. There was a sudden rise in prices. By Gauri's good luck, there was a great demand for land, and the land was sold for 1 lakh of rupees, 100 times the worth of her ornaments. Half the amount was paid in cash, and remaining was to be paid in 25 installments of rupees 2,000 or rupees 2,000 each. all agreed to this transaction, but began to quarrel over the money. They came to me for consultation. I told them that the property belonged to God and was vested in the priest, and that Gauri was his sole heiress and proprietress, and no amount should be spent without her consent, and that her husband had no right whatsoever to the amount. On hearing my opinion, Veerbhadrappa was annoyed with me and said that I wanted to establish Gauri's claim and embezzle her property. Now, Gauri's ornaments were sold and the land was bought, isn't it? So he says this land now actually belongs to the priest, and Gauri has this, and Veerbhadrappa has nothing to do with it. So you see, many things that we are actually fighting for this lifetime might be something that we are involved in for lifetimes. This is not a new issue. Huh? And what is Veerbhadrappa saying? This is how, when a saint comes and says something, we will accuse, we will project, because we want the money for ourselves. We will project this on evolved souls also, saying they want the money. That is why they have taken. On hearing his words, I remembered God and kept quiet. Veerbhadrappa scolded his wife Gauri, and she came to me at noon and requested me not to mind the words of others and not to discard her, as she was my daughter. As she thus sought my protection, I gave her a pledge that I would cross 7 seas to help her. That is a pledge that Baba has made. I will cross 7 seas to help my devotees. Wherever they are, I am there to support. Then that night, Gauri had a vision. Mahadev appeared in her dream and said, "The whole money is yours. Do not give anything to anybody. Spend some amount for temple purposes in consultation with Chenbasappa. And if you want to use it for some other purpose, consult Baba in the masjid." That is himself. Gauri told me the vision, and I gave her proper advice in the matter. I told her to take the principal or capital amount to herself, give half the amount of interest to Chenbasappa, and that Veerbhadrappa had nothing to do in this matter. While I was thus talking, both Veerbhadrappa and Chenbasappa came there quarreling. I tried my best to pacify them and told them of God's vision to Gauri. Veerbhadrappa got wild and angry and threatened to kill Chenbasappa, cutting him to pieces. The latter was timid. He caught my feet and sought refuge in me. I pledged myself to save him from the wrath of his foe. Then, after some time, Veerbhadrappa died and was born as a snake, and Chenbasappa died and was born as a frog. On hearing the croaking of Chenbasappa and remembering my pledge, I came here, saved him, and kept my word. God runs to his devotees for help in times of danger. He saved Chenbasappa the frog by sending me here. All this is God's Leela or sport. The moral of the story is that one has to reap what one sows, and there is no escape unless one suffers and squares up one's old debts and dealings with others. And that greed for money drags the greedy man to the lowest level and ultimately brings destruction for him and others. Bow to Sri Sai, peace be to all. So this is a very important lesson in this chapter 47. There is a story. See, we have to, and there are many such stories you will find in the lifetimes of saints, in the Guru Granth Sahib, and many books, scriptures that will talk about such people who have gone through lifetimes. And if he has promised to save, and see, at both the times, even the previous lifetime, he did not work on anybody's karma. He said, God will save. And then, as though Gauri had a dream, and that vision occurred. Even the next time when he saved Chenbasappa, the frog, and what did he say? That all this is God's Leela or sport. So he did not take any credit for himself. He used to always point out to that ultimate source. But that was the way of Sai. He is not. He never called himself God. He never called himself truth. So we shall go on to chapter 48. Even this is now, these are all very short chapters leading to the final. Chapter 48, Warding of Devotees' Calamities. So see, one thing we must keep in mind when we are thus devoted to Sai, we have faith in our Guru. Wherever we are, he is with us, to protect us, to guide us. We must only remember his name all the time and seek his guidance, support. That Namasmaranam should always be there. Warding of devotees' calamities. Story of Shevade and Sapatnekar. At the commencement of this chapter, someone asked, can we reduce that volume so that it is not happening? Someone asked Hemat whether Sai Baba was a guru or Sadguru. In order to answer the question, Hemat Pant describes the signs or marks of the Sadguru as follows. Signs of Sadguru. He who teaches us Vedanta or the 6 Shastras, he who controls the breath or brands his body with mudras, metallic marks of Vishnu's weapons, or gives pleasing discourses regarding Brahman. He who gives mantras, sacred syllables to the disciples and orders them to chant the same a certain number of times, but does not assure them any result in a definite time. He who by his lengthy, gross knowledge explains beautifully the ultimate principle, but has himself got no experience of self-realization, is not a Sadguru. But he who by his discourse creates in us a distaste for the enjoyments of this world and the next, and gives us a taste of self-realization, who is well versed in both the theoretical and practical knowledge, deserves to be called a Sadguru. How can he who is himself devoid of self-realization give it to the disciples? A Sadguru does not ever in his dream expect any service or profit from his disciples. On the contrary, he wishes to serve them. He does not think that he is great and the disciple small. Not only he loves him as his own son, but regards him as equal to himself or as Brahman. The main characteristic of a Sadguru is that he is the abode of peace. He is never restless nor ruffled. He has no pride of his learning. The poor and the rich, the small and the great are the same to him. So this is the difference between any guru and a Sadguru. When you say Sadguru, then he must be able to make his disciples also realize the same. So he should be, according to Vedantic terms, Shrotriya Brahmanishtha, one who is a master in the scriptures, and he is also abiding in that truth, that what the scriptures speak of. So he should know that. Hemat Pant thinks that on account of the store of accumulation of merits in his past works, he had the good fortune of meeting and being blessed by such a Sadguru as Sai Baba. It is said that with a lot of punya karma phala, it is because of the fruits of our good actions that we have performed, we have thought about, the way we have evolved, our understanding, our maturity, the amount it has evolved and grown and ripened. Such a person only has access to a Sadguru. Because before that, he is not even able to recognize a Sadguru as such. So Hemat Pant thinks it is his punya karma phala that he has met Sai Baba. Even in full youth, he hoarded nothing except tilim perhaps. He had no family, no friend, no home, nor any support. Since he was 18, his control of mind was perfect and extraordinary. He lived fearlessly in secluded places and always abided in himself. On seeing the pure attachment of his devotees, he always acted in their interests, and hence he was, in a way, dependent on them. What experience he gave to his devotees while he was living in flesh are felt even today after his Mahasamadhi by those who attach themselves to him. What the devotees have to do is this: they have to trim their heart lamp of faith and devotion and burn it wicks of love. And when this is done, the flame of knowledge, self realization, will be lit up and shine bright. Without love, there is no contentment. So we should have unbroken and unbounded love. How can we praise love? Everything is insignificant before it. Without love, our reading, hearing, and study are of no avail. In the wake of love come devotion, dispassion, peace, and liberation with all their treasures. We do not get love for anything unless we feel earnestly about it. So, where there is real yearning, God manifests Himself. It includes love and it is the means of liberation. You know, now it's so true. When you love anything, anybody, the moment there is love, there is peace in the heart. There is no difference seen. There is oneness experienced. And you will not have these negative about any. When does negativity, hatred, jealousy, and all come about? When there is no love in the heart for that person. Otherwise, it does not come. For today only, I read one quote, by Leo Tolstoy, and we were discussing that in the evening. It says, respect was invented to cover the empty place where love should be. I'll just read it again. Respect was invented to cover the empty place where love should be. So even actually when I read it first, even I was thinking about this. I said, we are taught to respect people, isn't it? But see, where there is love, respect automatically comes, isn't it? But when you say we have respect for somebody, not necessarily does love come there. Think about this. Therefore, so much importance given to love. We must develop and cultivate this love. We must take interest. When we are interested in anything, love for it also grows. And when we love something, we are blind to all the weaknesses and defects. Also, all these negativities, like what? Hatred will not come. You're not jealous of somebody whom you're truly in love. You do not feel that one is better. There is no comparison that comes about. Where there is no love, you will begin to see all this. So it's so important. And how must we love? Let us first begin with at least our love for our Guru Sai, our Lord Sai. Remember him, and when he takes up all the space, more and more purification happening, we begin to see, we begin to have this love for everyone. Now let us revert to the main story of this chapter. A man should go to a true saint with a pure mind, or even otherwise fraudulently, and hold his feet. Ultimately, he is sure to be saved. This is illustrated by the following stories. Man should go to a Sadguru with a pure mind. And then Hemat Pant changes and says, actually, even if it is not pure, go to him and fall at his feet. Because what now, then the Sadguru will see, because his presence will begin to purify. No? So why should we say, I should become pure, then go to God? Go to God, fall at his feet and tell him, please purify me. My mind might go elsewhere, you control it and stop it. No? With his grace, anything can happen. So we go to our story, Mr. Shevade. Mr. Sapatnekar of Akkalkot, Solapur district, was studying law. A co-student, Mr. Shevade, met him. Other fellow students also got together and compared notes of their study. It was found by the questions and answers amongst themselves that Mr. Shevade was the least prepared of all for the examination, and therefore all the students derided him. But he said that although he was not prepared, he was sure to pass the examination, as his Sai Baba was there to get him through it successfully. Mr. Sapatnekar was surprised at this remark. He took Mr. Shevade aside and asked him who the Sai Baba is uh, whom he extolled so high. He replied, there lives in a masjid in Shirdi, Ahmednagar district, a fakir. He is a great Satpurush. There may be other saints, but this one is unique. Unless there is a great store of merits on one's account, one can't see him. I fully believe in him, and what he says will never be untrue. He has assured me that I will pass definitely next year, and I am confident that I will get through the final examination by his grace. Mr. Sapatnekar laughed at his friend's confidence and jeered at him and Baba. Later, when Shevde passed his exams successfully, it made Sapatnekar quite surprised. The Sapatnekars. Mr. Sapatnekar passed his examination, settled at Akkalkot, and practiced as a pleader there. 10 years after this, that is in 1913, he lost his only son on account of a throat disease. This broke his heart. He sought relief by making a pilgrimage to Pandharpur, Gangapur, and other holy places. He got no peace of mind. Then he read Vedanta, which also did not help. In the meanwhile, he remembered Mr. Shevde's remarks and his faith in Baba, and he thought that he too should go to Shirdi and see Baba. He went to Shirdi with his younger brother, Pandit Rao, and was much pleased to see Baba from a distance. When he went near and prostrated himself and placed a coconut before Baba with feeling of devotion, the latter at once cried out, get away. Sapatnekar hung down his head and moved back and sat aside. He wanted to consult somebody who would advise him how to proceed. Somebody mentioned Bala Shimpi's name. Sapatnekar saw him and sought his help. They bought Baba's photos and came with them to the masjid. Bala Shimpi took a photo in his hand, gave it to Baba and asked him whose photo it was. Baba said that this photo was of a yar, lover of him, pointing to Sapatnekar. Saying this, Baba laughed and all others joined. Bala asked Baba the significance of the laugh and beckoned Sapatnekar to come forward and take darshan. When Sapatnekar began to prostrate himself, Baba again cried out, get out. Sapatnekar did not know what to do. Then they both joined their hands and sat before Baba praying. Baba finally ordered Sapatnekar to clear out immediately. Both were sad and dejected. As Baba's order had to be obeyed, Sapatnekar left Shirdi with a heavy heart, praying that he should be allowed to take darshan next time. Mrs. Sapatnekar. 1 year elapsed. Still his mind was not at peace. He went to Gangnapur, where he felt more restless. Then he went to Maregaon for rest and finally decided to go to Kashi. 2 days before starting, his wife got a vision. In her dream, she was going with a picture to Lakad Shah's well. There, a fakir with a piece of cloth tied around his head, sitting at the foot of the neem tree, came close to her and said, my dear Lassi, why get exhausted for nothing? I get your picture filled with pure water. She was afraid of the fakir and hastened back with the empty pitcher. The fakir followed her. At this, she was woken up and opened her eyes. She told this vision to her husband. They thought that this was an auspicious sign, and they both left for Shirdi. When they reached the masjid, Baba was absent. He had gone to Lendi. They waited till his return. When he returned, she was surprised to see that The fakir she saw in her vision exactly resembled Baba. She reverentially prostrated herself before Baba and sat down looking at him. On seeing her humility, Baba was much pleased and began to tell a story in his peculiar, characteristic manner to a third party. He said, "My arms, abdomen, and waist have been paining for a long time. I took many medicines. The pains did not abate. I got sick of the medicines as they gave me no relief. But I am surprised to see now that all the pains have disappeared at once. Though no name was mentioned, it was the story of Mrs. Sapatnikar herself. Her pains, as described by Baba, left her soon and she was happy." Then Mr. Sapatnikar went ahead to take darshan. He was again welcomed with the former "Get out." This time he was more penitent and persevering. He said that Baba's displeasure was due to his past deeds and resolved to make amends for the same. He determined to see Baba alone and ask his pardon for his past actions. He placed his head on Baba's feet and Baba placed his hand on him. And Sapatnikar sat stroking Baba's leg. Then a shepherdess came and sat massaging Baba's back. Baba, in his characteristic way, began to tell the story of a Baniya. He related the various vicissitudes of all his life, including the death of his only son. Sapatnikar was surprised to see that the story which Baba related was his own, and he wondered how Baba knew every detail of it. He came to understand that he was omniscient and knew the hearts of all. When this thought crossed his mind, Baba, still addressing the shepherdess and pointing to Sapatnikar, said, "This fellow blames me and charges me with the killing of his son. Do I kill people's children? Why does this fellow come to the masjid and cry? Now I will do this. I will again bring that very child back in his wife's womb." With these words, he placed his blessing hand on his head and comforted him, saying, "These feet are old and holy. You are carefree now. Place entire faith in me, and you will soon get your object." Sapatnikar was much moved with emotion. He bathed Baba's feet with his tears and then returned to his residence. Then he made preparation for worship and Naivedya and came with his wife to the masjid. He offered all this to Baba and accepted prasad from him. There was a crowd in the masjid, and Sapatnikar went there and saluted Baba again and again. And on seeing heads clashing against heads, Baba said to Sapatnikar, "Oh, why do you prostrate yourself now and then? One namaskar offered with love and humanity is enough." Then Sapatnikar witnessed that night the Chavdi procession described earlier. In that procession, Baba looked like veritable Panduranga Vithala. At the parting next day, Sapatnikar thought that he should first pay 1 rupee as dakshina, and if Baba asked again, instead of saying no, he should pay one more, reserving with him sufficient amount as expenses for the journey. When he went to the masjid and offered 1 rupee, Baba asked for another as per his intention. And when it was paid, Baba blessed him, saying, "Take the coconut, put it in your wife's oti, the upper fold of her sari, and go away without the least anxiety." He did so, and within a year, a son was born to him. And with an infant of 8 months, the couple came to Shirdi, placed him at Baba's feet, and prayed thus: "O Sainath, we do not know how to repay your obligations. Therefore, we prostrate ourselves before you. Bless us poor helpless fellows henceforth. Let your holy feet be our sole refuge. Many thoughts and ideas trouble us in waking and dream states. So turn away our minds from them to your bhajan and bless us." The son was named Murlidhar. Two others, Bhaskar and Dinkar, were born afterwards. The Sapatnikar couple thus realized that Baba's words were never untrue and unfulfilled. Bow to Sri Sai, peace be to all. See the beauty of it. Actually, sometimes we think, and about Sai, it is very true. We say, jab tak bulawa nahi aata, his bulawa has to come. And if he wants us there, we will land by hook or by crook. And if for some reason it is not the time to meet him, try what you may, you may not get. So, but in all times, we have to have and keep up our patience and faith in him. These two mantras we must remember. Shraddha, Sabra, Saburi. Be patient, do not lose, because he does, it seems like he's testing us in those times. But all that time is required. See, we look at it from time as we know of it in our minds. And we have created time this way. Humankind has decided this, isn't it? We have only manufactured time. Otherwise, in absolute reality, there is no time. We have calculated the earth takes this much time to revolve around itself and rotate around its axis and revolve around the sun. So this would be considered 1 year, and divide this year by so many days. And then we say we waited for so many days. And this is something created in the mind, collective conscious. There is no real truth to it. So for us, we should not be, when we talk of the jiva, the soul that is going through this journey of taking in bodies, leaving bodies, this time factor of so many days and months is of no use, not important. But the lessons that we have learned and the sanskaras that we have created within ourselves, that is what counts. So finally, each one of us is in our own journey. And we may meet many other jivas. Some of them we are very close with, some of them distant. But all this meeting is only to help the individual jiva to progress on a spiritual journey. This is the philosophy. This is the Eastern philosophy, as we say, all of them, whether it is Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism. It's this thought form that there is a law of karma that applies. There is that the souls, individual jivas, reincarnate. They carry the samskaras, and ultimately it is moksha. It is this freedom from the cycle of birth and death. That is the ultimate goal of life. So in this, the guru appears, and as we see, he can do it, but the guru will not, he just his presence and our following guru's words may purify our mind and destroy many previous karmas that we do not even know. It is deep rooted, deep in the subconscious and in the unconscious mind. We don't know what we are bound with. Very many times we think we are free, but actually we are not free until some situation comes up, and then we recognize that, something new I'm seeing. So this way, he uproots it from deep unconscious also, and the samskaras of previous lifetimes are also cleaned in the presence of the guru. So when we look at ourselves this way, as individual jivas, engaging and interacting with others, then, and if we know this is our goal, it doesn't matter really how the world is or what the world is made up of or how the other person is behaving. We know what we have to do. Because what we do, we are collecting karmas for ourselves. Who we are, we must be able to express. If the other is, whatever the other does, he is accumulating his karma. What we do, we are accumulating our karma. If we remember this, then the spiritual life, there is no confusion here. Our understanding is very clear. We just need to walk on that path. So beautifully, every chapter giving us such lessons, making us think deeply. We can, we have 10 minutes, but we may not complete the next chapter. So 40, 49 and 50. We shall do this next class, maybe end with the Falashruti also. Huh? We will do that. So today we will conclude here this chapter. And then maybe after the reading, we can meet one more Saturday like this and do a meditation on Sai's form. We will have one session on that. And then with that, we can conclude the series of lectures on Sai Satcharitra until we meet again sometime later. But for now, maybe the next two sessions we can have. We'll complete the reading and then do a meditation. So for today, we conclude here. Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Saram.